Hi, everyone. This is Nicole here. And I know we've been talking a lot about kindness and diversity. And remember, diversity is what makes us different. So, going along with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about different learning styles. So, there is this really smart psychologist. Remember, a psychologist is someone who studies how our brain works and how we learn. And he determined that there are at least 8 different ways that we learn best. Now, all of us are able to learn because we all have something called intelligence. I know that when you think of intelligence, you probably think of how smart someone is, but really all it means is, are you able to learn? So every single person is intelligent because we're all able to learn, but we all learn differently. So I'm going to show you 8 different ways that we can learn. Now, all of us learn at least a little bit in all of the different 8 styles, but some of them might be stronger in some of us than others. And remember, we've talked about growth mindset and how with practice and if we keep exercising our brain, we can get smarter in lots of different ways. Well, if you notice as I'm talking about a smart that it's harder for you, that doesn't mean that it can't change. You can still grow your brain and get stronger in that area. But if you notice something is really easy for you, then that might be something you don't have to work as hard with. And that's okay. So there's no specific order for the 8 different learning styles, but I'm going to so our first one that I have in my posters is called number or math smart, or we can call it logic mathematical. So with people that have a lot of number or math smart, they probably like and are really good at things such as math, numbers, and number activities or solving problems. And things that help learn is using manipulatives like cubes or blocks or thing that you might have is the way that you learn, you might plan to do for hopefully a lifelong time. We're ready to do something called retiring and not working anymore. But I'm going to list off a couple things you might do if you have lots of number smart or math smart, okay? So some finances or their money. So you might work at a bank or work with a person. You might be a doctor or a scientist or an engineer or a computer programmer. You might have a lot of what's called wordsmithing words. And they probably like and are really good at telling stories or talking, anything. So class discussions, reading, writing their own books, or presenting to the class, kind of like what I'm doing. Now, some careers that you might have if you have lots of word smart are being a lawyer, helping people do what's correcting what's right and wrong. Laugh. You might be a writer, an author, writing stories. You might be the newscaster and report the news. You'll be a teacher or a translator and one another. Maybe a talk show host or a journalist. Notice how all of those and most of them involve talking. Now, for some, you might have lots of picture or art smart. You learn best using pictures and images. Good at things like art, any kind of art, right? Coloring, drawing, painting, scrapbooking, It might be really easy for you to learn when you're drawing pictures, if you're reading books with lots of pictures, if you're watching movies or looking at visuals, kind of like what I'm doing right now with our posters. And some possible future careers are you might design buildings and be an architect or be an artist or an engineer or a graphic artist and make images on the computer or be a photographer and take pictures or be a pilot and fly planes or a sculptor and make things inside. Or you might make cartoons and be a film animator. Or you might also program computers, make them work. Now, some people have a lot of people smart or interpersonal. They learn best by working with others. So they probably are really good at working with groups, making friends, playing team sports, or sharing, but they enjoy being around people and things around people, working with them, being a mentor or a buddy, talking with others. They might enjoy as a career an actor or an actress or an administrator. So you might be a principal like Mrs. O'Neill or a dental hygienist and work in the dentist's office or be a nurse like Nurse Sandy or a politician. You might be the next president or a religious leader or a social worker or a counselor like me or a teacher, or you might work in a restaurant and be a server or a manager or some other position in the restaurant with you. You might also have some music smart or be musical. That means you learn best using music, rhythms, and beats. So these are people who probably like playing an instrument, any kind of an instrument, or singing, or they might have an easier time recognizing sounds and pitch. That's when you can hear things that go low to high, or listen. You learn are writing and reciting poetry, or writing your own songs, or just listening to music or playing music. And you might like to be a DJ or a disc jockey and play music at an event. You might also be a musician or a singer or write songs or be a voice actor for cartoons. You might also be a music teacher or a therapist who uses music to help people heal. Now, a couple more. You might have a lot of nature smarts or be naturalistic. That means you learn best by relating to nature or the outdoors. So you probably are really good at things such as science, learning about or working with plants and animals, and just mainly being outdoors. You like all kinds of weather. The things that help you learn are working outside, working in the garden, learning about the solar system, the planets, the stars, be going on a walk, working with animals. You might like to be an astronomer, learning about planets and stars. You might be a dog or an animal trainer. You might be a farmer or a forest ranger or a gardener or a nature photographer or veterinarian or a scientist. Possibilities are endless with all of these, really. They learn best being able to move around. So they probably are really good at things, sports, dancing, walking, exercising, using your hands to work, experimenting, trying things out, acting. Things that help them learn are acting, moving around when they need a break, using manipulatives or blocks or clay, going on field trips, changing your seats every now and then. It's hard to stay in the same place all the time. Using fidget tools, crafts, and some things you might do when you're older are you might be an athlete or a carpenter or a construction worker. You might design homes or clothes even. You might be a dancer or a firefighter or a forest ranger or a police officer or a personal trainer, or you might be the next Mr. RJ or Mr. Keith and be a PE teacher. All right. And our last, but definitely not least, is self-smart. So remember how we said people smart, people who like to work with groups? Well, people who have lots of self-smart or intrapersonal smarts work best by working independently by themselves. So these are people who prefer to work by themselves. They don't really like to work with lots of people or groups. And they have an easier time motivating themselves, saying, I got this, I can do it. They or just think about their So things that help them learn is working by themselves, having themselves, or just writing how they feel. So some jobs they might like to do, or careers, excuse me, are be an artist or a counselor like me, or you might research and learn about a certain topic. You might own a small business, be so thinking about all of those different, I have something else for you all. All right, let's get that open, okay? So there we go. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about careers, okay? So what is a career? Remember, we often hear jobs and we hear careers, and they're pretty similar. But a job is something that you usually start. So a job is something you usually do just for a little bit of time, while a career is something that you hope to do for the rest of the time that you're working. Okay, and a career are things like, all right, they require and learning. I know a lot of change your mind. We're all pretty young. I don't know if I'm counting myself in that, but everybody here has time. And even I can change my mind one day if I decide to. And so what you're going to do is think about interested in or some of the smarts that you feel. Okay. So what I want you to think about is what are things you need to do the career that you're thinking of? And I'll give you some examples. Look at all of these different people. We see a chef, I see a construction worker, an astronaut. Looks like they work as a librarian or in maintenance. I see a forest ranger. I see a doctor. I see different people. So maybe you here that are interesting to you. So you can pick one of them or you can make don't see someone here. Okay. And I will show you my example. So, Miss Nicole, school counselor. Because since I work here at Westlake, we don't have a special uniform. We are allowed to wear, just as long as we're wearing clean clothes and our neat clothing, then it's okay. I don't have to wear a uniform. So I'm not wearing a special uniform. Have something different. Okay, but that's me. So I'm really excited to see some of what you decide to do with your drawings. So I hope your teachers can share some of those pictures with me and I get to see them. But until then, I'll see you later, okay? I